Hello and welcome to Talk to Stu. In this video I've decided to highlight the experiences of one of my viewers who's been kind enough to share his circumstances and why he's particularly anxious about the future of PIP payments. The gentleman who I spoke to, who I shall refer to as David, is a veteran and lives with military complex PTSD. I'm not professing to understand the experiences that military personnel go through during the service or have any personal insight, but I do have some understanding of complex PTSD and the difficulties managing this kind of condition on a daily basis and the importance of monthly payments in supporting that. So for this video, I'm simply going to read out this gentleman's words to me, with his permission of course, so people watching hopefully can get a better understanding of the difficulties faced by military personnel who have this condition, not least in terms of the support that they receive from the government. Before I start though, I will say that some of this has been edited to remove any key information that could be considered sensitive. Also, there is mention in the video about suicide, suicidal ideation, and topics that some people may find distressing. Please only watch this if you feel you are in a good place psychologically, as I would not wish to trigger any distress for people. The purpose of this is to provide useful information only and highlight one of the voices in the whole PIP vouchers debate. Now, let's go to David, as his words give us a more detailed insight. I asked David to tell me what his experiences were and indicated that my knowledge of the condition and the experiences of military personnel after leaving service was limited. Everything I'm about to say are the words of David. David replied, "We protected you and everyone you hold dear to you. Our job and the responsibility on our shoulders to protect the British people caused my injury. I suffered a total breakdown and could not talk to anyone. The effects of service differ for many. Some are never effective, others are prone to complex PTSD to childhood trauma and abuse, leaving them susceptible. Many never recover from the high intensity stress they are exposed to continuously on a day-to-day, month-by-month basis, with no breaks, no privacy, just constant high intensity mental pressure every day. During operations, it is not uncommon for personnel to be working in excess of 100 hours a week, weeks on end, in extreme high-stress environments, grabbing sleep as and when they can. The structure of knowing professionally where we are to be, what was the mission objectives, and to carry them out to completion. We were fed, looked after, both medically and being part of something far bigger than ourselves, knowing that the individual alongside you can be trusted with our lives. We no longer had that on leaving, which created a void and emptiness which runs deep in veterans, where we feel we don't belong. When we leave, everything becomes a blurred fog, and service life is lost after so many years. We feel we don't belong in a society that has sent us into direct conflict against our enemies. Society then turns its back on our veterans. Many end up homeless. Civilian life in comparison is nothing but chaos. So we shut ourselves away from society. We trust no one but other veterans who understand our pain. Veterans become isolated, as I did for many years. Operations were conducted in darkness, at night, under extreme stress. When I left service, I would keep all my curtains drawn and sit in the dark, lock my door and shut myself away. We hide our anguish externally, and in private weep for those we lost, those who died alongside us, some by their own hands. Extreme depression becomes our friend, and it takes us to a place of pure, total darkness, where some see suicide as a place of peace, finally see an end to having to wake up to face another day of hell. I myself suffered extreme sleep deprivation. I was on constant alert, even on downtime, where the slightest noise would wake me. For weeks we would grab an hour's sleep, only to be woken without warning, hence our heightened state of alert, which never leaves us after many years of active service. The effect of PTSD flashbacks haunt me, where images bombard me without warning of atrocities I have seen, and they never go away. It's a living hell, and getting through each day, one at a time, is an achievement. When we leave, many are aggressive, many can't hold down relationships, or struggle to fit into society, only to turn to drink to block out the pain. We go to sleep, but at times never want to wake up. We see society as the threat because we trust no one, only those veterans who understand our internal pain. I've personally lost 3 people to suicide who were on active duty when they took their own lives. I was in a serious incident during operations which has had a profound effect on me. I didn't realise I was suffering from complex PTSD until many years after service. I'd become accustomed to hiding my illness to survive, to lock my door, close the curtains and sit in a darkened room with no lights on. I would cry myself to sleep and on waking cry again. Every day was a living hell. I suffered multiple breakdowns, then reached out for help. Had I not done so, I was ready to die. Anything would have been better than to continue struggling day after day. Having been formally diagnosed after months of treatment, I realise I can't be fixed. I'm like many others, discharged as broken. Then, many years later, realising we needed help. I'm medicated and I live with my demons every day, like so many others. We fight on or become homeless by pushing away those who fail to understand what we sacrifice through service. The NHS are currently not able to provide the support we need. Now, with all my other medical problems, strokes, heart disease, mobility issues, severe COPD, I can't walk with only limited mobility, clinical depression, and C-PTSD. Now they want to take away our lifeline, our ability to survive, by issuing bloody vouchers. I have to keep warm due to severe lung disease. If they do this, I think many will commit suicide. We need these payments as I can't work. I'm 65 now, 1 year from state pension. So that was Dave's statement in his own words. As I'm sure you can agree, it's quite thought-provoking, and I am extremely grateful to Dave for sharing this experience publicly. Following his email, we had a conversation, and he went on to highlight other areas of importance which are often overlooked, including the lack of housing, the difficulty with holding down employment, the way the condition of C-PTSD impacts on day-to-day activities, with symptoms like freezing, where a loud noise or surprise event can trigger a total shutdown of functions, or, at its worst, could lead to a violent outburst. He highlighted that specialist military mental health care is required to combat this problem, and like all veterans, he feels that this needs to be led by people who have experienced this and have a military background. David is still struggling with managing the condition and still experiences suicidal ideation. His diagnosis came many years after his discharge, despite his mental health being the reason for it. And even then, the treatment, he says, can only do so much. Long-term support is what is required. PIP payments are an important part of this, whether it's supplementing an income, paying for support, being used for transport to hospital appointments, one of his other health conditions. The thought of having to be beholden to a voucher scheme or limitations on how he uses the money is an extremely worrying situation for David and for a person who is managing a serious mental health condition. And indeed, when a person has sacrificed so much for the people of this country in good faith, why should they have to worry? For me and David and many others, I'm not saying these solutions are simple. They are, of course, very complex. But this element is one that could be the difference between life and death. I'm also not in any way suggesting that there aren't hundreds of thousands of other folk out there dealing with mental health problems that wouldn't be negatively affected by this proposal. The Current rhetoric by think tank organisations like the Institute for Fiscal Studies suggesting that the provision within welfare benefits towards people with mental health conditions should be reduced, which directly influences how government policy is formed, is both dangerous and ignorant of the evidence. No one with a mental health problem is more or less deserving than anyone else for support. But situations like David's do show how heartless proposals like the voucher schemes and means testing PIP are. The new Labour government, MPs, lords and top civil servants would do well to heed stories like this and the human costs of such proposals, and pay less attention to corporate-funded think tanks. If just one person loses their life to these proposals, well, that's one too many. Now, this has been another long video from me, and I have to say 2 more things. If you stuck with me to this point, thank you for doing so. Firstly, if any of the issues raised in this video have affected you, there are links in the description below for places that you can find support, including Veterans UK, SAFA, Shelter, and PTSD UK. David has also asked me to draw people's attention to Craig Harrison, a veteran who's doing some great work highlighting the military C-PTSD condition, its effects, and gives real insight into how it impacts on a person's life. I have linked to one of his interviews at the end of this video. Also, check out the work of another YouTuber who's doing fantastic things for military C-PTSD and mental health, but also for people living with physical disabilities and accessibility, Nick Wilson. Again, the link to his videos at the end of this one and in the description below. Give him a follow. Finally, we need to keep the pressure on MPs over these proposed changes. The consultation finished at the end of July, but that doesn't mean we stop campaigning. We need to put pressure on MPs to reject any government proposals that make the lives of disabled people worse. We've had 14 years of that, arguably 16, and it hasn't got the country into a better financial situation. So maybe a different approach is needed by government. Maybe then the UN won't be investigating our government for human rights abuses. There are more links below to suggested ways of getting involved in that. Thank you to everyone who has watched this, and most especially to David for sharing his information and his experiences. And to all of you, I hope you can stay strong. Remember, whatever you're going through, no matter how bad it seems, please keep going. You are more valuable to me than any MP, celebrity, footballer, actor, or whatever you can think of, whoever you are. If you have found this video helpful or informative, please like and subscribe, but most importantly, share it. That helps this channel to grow, but also helps to get useful information on benefits and welfare out to those who need it. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.